Hey folks, welcome back. Polaris Explorer. Battery's not charging. Let's check it out. Okay, I don't know what year this thing is, but I assume it's got to be late 90s because I recently had a 2004 Polaris Sportsman 500 in here, and there's a lot of similarities to how that machine is put together and everything. So probably what I'm going to be talking about in this is probably going to pertain to that machine as well. This one happens to be a two-stroke, and I want, like I said, I want to think it's late 90s, 2000, and I am kind of going off just what I sort of know. The stator should be in there, like you should be able to move that cover. The flywheel would probably come off, and these wires right here coming out, those should be your stator wires. There should be 3 of them. We're going to confirm that, possibly, I don't know what color, but I assume yellow. But basically this is what we've got off of this so far, is the side panels and the seat. It's just a matter of these tabs right here, just kind of pull and tug, and be careful with it. We need to get this cover off of here. You just kind of remove the oil cap, and you kind of pull it past the oil cap, and you can just kind of slide it down, and then up in here it's going to be difficult to see, but you need to separate it. Yes, right now we're going to see if we can go right through this hole. See how that kind of separates like that. Okay, once that's pulled loose, you can pull this up past the oil fill and slide this forward, and then this can either, yeah, it's stuck. I'm gonna need 2 hands. Oh boy, she's filthy. Get that cleaned off there, and then I immediately put my oil cap and stuff back on so nothing gets in there. Did a little wire tracing, and these 3, I was pretty sure I was right. These 3 yellow wires right here are what go down to your stator, and where they're heading off in that direction is right in there. That kind of square deal should be the rectifier, which brings your stator produces, like, I don't know, 30 to maybe to 50 or 60 volts AC. This thing here converts it over to DC to charge your battery. So we need to take this cover off right here. It looks like we got 13 millimeter Phillips, flat Phillips. That's probably not right. And then down here, wait a minute. No, it should just be, oh, it's actually riveted in. Never mind. Okay, so that whole thing's, yeah, this whole thing's gonna have to come off. So you got 13 mils here, 13 mil there, and then flat. And yeah, see there, there's gonna be some differences. It's old, but that's pretty much, I have no idea what that does. So we got to get that whole front piece off of there. All right, and what I do want to mention before you do anything with checking your charging system or anything of that is you have got to make sure that you've got a good battery, because a bad battery will sometimes either not take a charge or take a charge slowly, or just, you know, you might think you have it won't charge, but it's just your battery's just not holding a charge, and maybe your machine's only running off of the stator that can provide the rectifier power, and you know, this, that, and the other. Gotta make sure you got a good battery. So with the machine at rest for at least sitting for a couple hours to half a day or something like that, you should have about 12.3 to 12.56 volts, and that's where it should really kind of stay. Now it's not going to stay that way indefinitely, but it will stay. That's where it kind of needs to be. That's a fully charged battery. Obviously when it's running, you should have it close to 13.5, almost 14, maybe a little over 14.5 or 14.3, yeah, somewhere around there. if this looks a little bit different to you, then you know we just installed a new starter relay. This was the one right here. Just happened to be, that's what this machine actually came in for, was because it wouldn't crank and start. Instead of, these bolts were so damn rusty right here, and I just opted to go with the generic one. I've put these on a lot of different four-wheelers and whatnot, ATVs, side-by-sides and everything from Napa. Very pretty reliable actually. But anyways, but yeah, like I said before, you got to make sure you have a good battery, and you got to make sure you have your connections. See how my connections right here, all nice and shiny. I cleaned them all off, got them all good and clean. I'm gonna do the same thing with the terminals up here, and that's, you know, but got to make sure you got a good battery, because that could be the source of your problem with your charging. But with the battery voltage, measure your battery voltage when it's sitting here at rest. Say it's 12.4, then you start the machine up. Voltage should come up to about 12.8, almost 13. Should be able to rev the engine up, and then that, boom, that's when it should get up to about 14, 14.2, 3 is all okay. Just don't want anything like above 14 and a half, or what you're going to start doing is you'll be overcharging your battery. Your battery actually kind of swell up. That's a sign of being, you know, and it'll boil your water out of it eventually. I mean, you know, don't want much more than 14.5, but I'd say, you know, anything less than that and above 13 and a half, you're good. So that's what you want to test first. That's what we've already tested on this thing. Verified that, you know, this thing was at like 12.2, I think it was, or no, it was at 12.3. Cranked and started it, it went to 12.2, and it stayed at 12.2 no matter if you rev the engine up or whatever. And that was just straight at the battery. And so that's what we're gonna do next, is gonna troubleshoot, figure out, you know, where you start and everything like that. Start here, make sure you got a good battery, and then move on to what we're gonna be doing. Okay, so we got this out. Now, you don't have to take these screws out per se, because what that is actually doing is just, and this thing just kind of came with it, which is not a bad idea, because we're gonna need to clean it. So anyways, you can leave those on there, these three little small screws right there. So what we did was we took the two 13 mils out of here, two 13 mils out of here. That was also holding this, whatever this is. Looks like a horn, but and then the two on the bottom here. And then I just put this bungee cord, yeah, these two right here. There. This is what they look like. And getting a lot of dirt out of here. This thing's gonna weigh a lot less, and then we'll be able to plant some potatoes and stuff right there. Perfect. So yeah, I put this bungee cord on here kind of to take the most of the weight, because this regulator is actually mounted on there with Torx screws and stuff like that. And so essentially this, I'm not 100% sure this is a regulator, but it's really got to be, because we've got 3 yellow wires and we got a red and black. You got the 3 wires coming in from the stator, and you got the red and the black going to your battery, because you're going to have the AC voltage going into this thing and your DC voltage coming out on the red and black. And whoa, this is probably our problem. So that's one of the first things you're going to want to do, is test and make sure that you've got your same battery voltage. You would want to test in these wires. You'd want to unplug these wires, if they do unplug. Yeah, they do. So this would be normally how they would come out. So what you would want to do is unplug those, go into that plug right there, and make sure you've got the same. If you're reading 12.4 on your battery, you should have about 12.4, maybe 12.3. You might drop a little bit from back at the battery all the way to the front here, but close enough. You'll want to check that. And actually you want to check it with a test light and make sure that the wire is good enough. If it powers up a test light, that should be good, not just with a meter. Check it with a meter, and then also put a test light into it and check it. And then that's going to be your first check. That way you'll know you're getting the voltage, you know, from your battery is connected to this so that it can do its thing. So the next thing you're going to do is you want to unplug all three of these. I got to double check and make sure that the wires and the colors are all matched, everything. It shouldn't really matter, but if they're different color, like that's got a different stripe, yellow with a kind of a brown stripe. I don't want to put it on something different, but anyways, we're going to pull all three of those off and show you how to connect that or test that. Okay, so basically this one's a solid yellow, no stripe on it. We got a yellow with a red stripe, and then we get a yellow with a brown stripe, and that corresponds with the three wires up there, so you really can't mix them up. Putting them back in, this is our black and red for our battery. This is what it's supposed to look like. This one here, you can see that the green corrosion and all that kind of stuff, that's probably what our problem is, hopefully, you know. But that's why you get underneath here and you check this stuff before you buy parts, before you get online and try to buy this regulator here. And different machines, they're going to be usually in places they want to get cool air running to them and stuff like that. And up here on the front of the machine's probably a really good place. The Honda Ranchers keep them towards the back, up in the fender rail. So I also have a video about battery draining, which this was the cause of the battery draining on that Honda Rancher, which I assume could probably happen to this. So anyways, yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to get a multimeter, and we're going to go in and we're going to connect it up to these connectors here. Alright, so I'm going to try to do this about the best I can do right at the moment. But we've got our yellow wires right up in here. And then we have our meter, and we're setting it on volts AC, because you want AC on this particular, these three wires. When you check the red and the black, you want it on this meter. You got DC volts here. That's where you want to check your red and black and be the same as your battery. Then you want to check this on AC voltage, because that's what's going to be coming out of your stator. And then we're going to go start with any two of these wires, and then I'm going to bring one lead and go to the other wire, and then I'm going to take the other lead and go to the third wire, and then I might even try it from one lead to ground and see if they're all three the same. And that's how that should go. So anyways, we'll get the machine started up and get it running and get that checked. Alright, hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to go on solid yellow, and then the yellow with the red. I'm going to go about 18, 19, 17, kind of bouncing around, but the engine's kind of not quite running quite as smooth. We'll go from the solid yellow, we'll leave that one in there, we'll go to the yellow with the brown. We've got about 4 volts there. Now we'll keep it in the brown, and we'll go to the yellow with the red. And we got about 8, 9 right there. Now we're going to go to the solid yellow and then go to the one with the brown. About 9.5. I'm going to see if I can keep these meter leads in here. 17, we'll rev the engine up. So that OL was what you saw on there, is it was going to a range. We got up to 70 volts out of that, out of those two wires. So they are going to be, it's possibly, I kind of expect that to be kind of like that. And so you want to make sure that you're getting something, but you will have to look up specs. I'll try to do that. I just don't have a service manual, and I'll try to look up maybe like what a range is supposed to be. But to me, that seems about right for, you know, how one of these stators and how I've seen them work before. You've got one that's on the, you know, like a full field, and the other two kind of a half, and so I would assume that 18, and then we read 9 volts on one. Anyways, that's how I kind of assume that, you know, that it works and everything. So that's, you know, that's good. So if you had that voltage there and you had your battery voltage up in that plug, you could pretty much say, okay, yeah, it's probably, you could probably say that we need to replace this. If you don't get any voltage or any types of reading or something that's missing out of those 3 wires, then you're going to have to go in and check your wiring from here into the stator, but then you'll probably be replacing the stator. In our case, we are not getting positive voltage into or out of this, you know, and so there's no way that this can charge with that connector looking like that. So we're going to have to fix it. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put, I think I'm just going to eliminate this and then just put other ones like these on it and get her fixed up and see if it works. Alright, so we got our deals. This is what I came, you know, I put these on here and I put them on staggered like this so that you can never, you know, hook them up backwards. And I went ahead and just tried the machine and it's not charging. So what we need to do is go to that troubleshooting step where I told you guys to do, and that's to check for DC voltage at those 2 wires. So are you able to see my meter? All right, come over here and we put the red lead on the red lead. We put the negative there. 12.27. If I went to my battery, I'd get exactly that, 12.27, 12.28. So wiring is all good up to this point. We need to replace this module. All right, the other thing that I also told you to do, that I still need to do, is make sure that that circuit can carry a load using a test light. Not a digital test light that has an LED, it's one that's actually got a bulb in it. So hook one side of your test light up, you know, up to negative. That's what we got going on right here, is up to our negative, black wire. It's kind of a brown colored wire as I've now looked at it, but it's the negative. And put the other one on the test light, or on the positive, red, and you can see we can carry a load. Now you wouldn't do that on these 3 wires because you don't use a test light on AC voltage. For one thing, this is like a 12 and maybe a 24 volt test light. What we get, about 70 volts out of that thing when we rev the engine up? Yeah, you don't want to do that. So that's not going to do you good, but you can do it on this circuit right here. So yeah, we are at the point where we need to replace this rectifier. Okay, so we're also going to do an ohm check, and this is going to go right straight into the stator. I couldn't find anything about what the voltage should be producing, but it is producing voltage. One of the main things you want to do is check the resistance, and from what I can see, hopefully it was the right set of specs and everything, but it was 0.1 ohms to about 1 ohm or something like that. So, so what we're going to do, we're going to put this red lead and we'll put it on the yellow wire, just a solid yellow wire, and we're going to go with yellow and red. And we got 0.8 ohms on that one, so we're going to leave the red one where it is. We're going to go to the yellow with the brown stripe on it. We got 0.6 ohms right there. Now we're going to put the red one and we're going to do these 2 wires with the stripes. And there we are, 0.7, 0.6. So the ohm checks for that are good. So the other thing we want to do is we want to put this, it doesn't matter, this isn't polarity sensitive, really do any sort of which way you want to do as far as which lead you're using. I just put the black lead over here on a good shiny spot on the frame, and that's 278 k ohms. It's a lot. Another 278 k ohms, that's a lot. So I don't think our stator is shorted, but those are the checks you want to do. You don't want to have a really low resistance like say 20 ohms or 30 ohms or something like that. K ohms means kilo ohms, so I mean we're looking at 278,000 ohms or something or whatever, and that's what this meter's reading. Yeah, so 278 k ohms, which is like 2,780 volt ohms is what that is. So it's quite a bit. I'd like it to be a little bit higher, but I think we're going to be all right. And then we went up here and we checked our voltage. We checked each one of these to ground, because you also don't want it to be grounded. And then so yeah, we are pretty much to the point where we need a new voltage regulator or voltage rectifier, whichever you want to call it. We sourced one out for about $45, and get her put on, see if that works. All right, folks, a couple days later for me, instantaneous for y'all, magic. Got us a new voltage regulator or rectifier, whatever you want to call it. Got it from that Jungle website, Amazon. This happens to be the part number. There's quite a few of them, different ones to choose from, but what I was noticing is you got to count, to make sure you have the right wires and stuff, because there's some that have just 3 wires, some that have 4. This one happens to have 5. Other ones that but they all look pretty similar with this box, but you can see that this thing looks pretty similar to this. I don't know how long one of these is going to last, whether it's good or not, but I want to say it was probably $20, give or take. Could have been a little less, could have been a little more. I don't remember what it is. Parts flowing in and out of the shop quite a bit, so I forget sometimes. But anyways, let's fire this thing up and see if it works. Alright, first you want to know what your battery is static, just like in your other tests earlier. And we are 12.44, 43. And then we'll click this thing on, crank and start it. Boom. And then we're dropping 14.67. So just a smidge high. I'd like it to be 14.3 or 4, but I'm okay with it. Notice when I rev the engine up, it didn't go over, and go up to like 15 or 16. That's what you don't want to have. So basically that rectifier, voltage regulator thing, whatever, it's pretty much just maintaining that 14.6, 14.7 going into the battery. As the battery probably charges and gets a little bit better, probably might be a little bit less, but again, these things aren't that sophisticated on how the outputs and all that kind of stuff coming from the the stator and all that stuff that's in the engine versus the rectifier that's in there. So basically, that's what you're going to get. You just want to make sure it doesn't get too high. This one appears to be working. Everything seems to be great. It's definitely a fix for us. You know, we checked all of our stator inputs. We checked our stator inputs, these 3 wires right here from the 3 different windings. We didn't exactly have any specs on what the voltage should be. And we had a little bit different readings on different windings, not sure why. But when we did our resistance checks, we had them all same across the board. And I want to revisit that a little bit as far as checking, making sure that you do checks like those resistance checks that we did earlier in these wires, because you could have a bad stator in there, which could in turn take out this voltage regulator, and then you go ahead and put a new voltage regulator on there. You still got the bad stator because it's grounded, shorted, whatever, and you put in a new one and you keep thinking you get bad ones of these when your problem's really inside there. Our problem wasn't, because we checked on this, you know, we checked, we unplugged these wires going that way, and we checked resistance in between this one and this one, this one and this one, and then this one and this one, these 2 going into the 4-wheeler, not in here. And what we also did is we checked from this wire to ground, this wire to ground, and this wire to ground. Again, not on this, it was going up there to check the stator, which is what's on your engine. That way, because if any of that stuff's grounded, some of that stuff could take out one of these, and that's what you don't want to have happen. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna get this all put back together, and